I call to order this meeting. This is an additional meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. I'm Phil Mendelson, Chair of the Council and Chair of the Committee of the Whole. Today is Tuesday, June 30th, 2026. The time is 12:33 in the afternoon. We're in room 500, the council chambers of the Johnny Wilson Building. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 13 as well as on the council's website, www.dccouncil.gov. This is an additional meeting that it is not a regularly scheduled meeting of the Committee of the Whole. This meeting will be followed by the regular monthly meeting of the council, the legislative meeting, the regular meeting for July, even though today is June 30th. And that then allows us to have a meeting in 2 weeks to take care of final readings on July 14th. We have one item for markup in the Committee of the Whole, and then a number of measures that were reported out of other committees. We begin our Committee of the Whole meetings by determining whether we have a quorum. Mr. Cash, would you call the roll?
Chairman Mendelson.
Present.
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Bonds.
Here.
Councilmember Crawford.
Here.
Councilmember Felder.
Present.
Councilmember Fruman.
Present.
Councilmember Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Louis George. Councilmember Louis George. Councilmember Nadeau.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
Councilmember Pinto.
Present.
Councilmember Robert White. Councilmember Robert White. Councilmember Trayon White.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. So the first item for consideration is markup of PR 26-708 entitled District of Columbia Uniform Law Commission Janine D. Jackson, Appointment Resolution of 2026. This is an appointment by the council, not a confirmation resolution. The purpose of PR 26-708 is to appoint Ms. Janine Jackson as the council appointee to the District of Columbia Uniform Law Commission, replacing Heidi Sue, who to serve the remainder of an unexpired 3-year term to end on July 1st, 2027. Ms. Jackson is a Ward 4 resident. She earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the City College of New York and a Juris Doctor degree from the Washington College of Law at American University. She currently serves as the executive partner of Holland and Knight's Washington, D.C. office. Prior to coming to Holland and Knight, Ms. Jackson worked in and around all branches of the government of the District of Columbia, including serving as Deputy Chief of Staff and Director of the Office of Policy and Legislative Affairs for Mayor Gray, served as an Assistant Corporation Counsel in the Office of the Corporation Counsel, which is the predecessor to the DC Attorney General, and served as Committee Director to the Council's Committees on Public Safety and the Judiciary and Committee on Education, Libraries, and Recreation. In 2010, the Council adopted the District of Columbia Uniform Law Commission Act, which provides the statutory basis for the appointment and duties of the district's commissioners to the Uniform Law Commission. Members of the commission serve as official commissioners from the district to the Uniform Law Commission. The Uniform Law Commission, first established in 1892, provides states with a venue to address the problems resulting from the inconsistencies in the law of different states that impede commerce and other interstate activities. The main purpose of the Uniform Law Commission is to study and review the law of the states to determine which areas of the law should be uniform. The Uniform Law Commission can only propose laws, and it is up to the state legislature to approve the proposed law. The district first sent representatives to the Uniform Law Commission in 1905, and since that date, numerous uniform laws have been adopted in the district. The legal subject areas covered include family law, commercial law, trusts and estates, civil, criminal, and administrative and environmental law. Uniform laws are different than model laws in that the Uniform Law Commission recommends their adoption with minimal changes by as many states as possible. The goal is to promote uniformity in the law among the states. The district's delegation to the commission consists of 7 commissioners, 5 of whom are appointed, 3 by the mayor, 1 by the council, and 1 by the chief judge of Superior Court. The general counsel to the council, or his or her designee, and a resident of the district who is elected as a life member of the Uniform Law Commission also serve as commissioners. The commissioners must be residents of the district, and each must be a member in good standing of the District of Columbia Bar. Based on her experience and credentials, Ms. Jackson has an in-depth knowledge of legislative issues, including uniform laws. This legislation was introduced by me on May 13th of this year, and the Committee of the Whole held a public roundtable on June 17th. Committees received no testimony or comments in opposition to this appointment. I move both the print and report together with leave for staff to make technical, conforming, and editorial changes. Is there discussion? The vote will be on both the print and report with leave for staff. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Wants the report and hearing record on file.
Mr. Assistant Secretary.
No.
Madam Budget Director, this is an appointment resolution, so there would not be a fiscal impact.
Correct.
So the absence is consistent with council requirements. Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. I will turn now to consideration of measures from other committees. If there's no objection, the 4 resolutions regarding the Board of Pharmacy will be moved or presented in block. They are PR 26-687, Board of Pharmacy, Dr. Allison Hill, Confirmation Resolution of 2026. PR 26-688, Board of Pharmacy, Dr. Jamila Jordan, Confirmation Resolution of 2026. PR 26-689, Board of Pharmacy, Dr. Jewel Reddick, Confirmation Resolution of 2026. And PR 26-690, Board of Pharmacy, Dr. Stephanie Jonikin, Confirmation Resolution of 2026. These were all reported out of the Committee on Health, chaired by Councilmember Christina Henderson. Councilmember Henderson, will you present these?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PR 26-0687 nominates Dr. Allison Hill for a reappointment to the Board of Pharmacy as a pharmacist licensed in the district for a term to end March 12, 2028. Dr. Hill has served on the board since 2020, and she currently serves as its chairperson. Dr. Hill serves as the pharmacy manager for CVS Health, where she is responsible for various aspects of pharmacy operations, including consumer health needs, pharmacy inventory, and security. In addition to her role at CVS Health, Dr. Hill is an active member of the National Association of Board of Pharmacies. She is a Kappa Psi Pharmaceutical Fraternity Incorporated DC grad chapter member. She also holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Chemistry from North Carolina State University and a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from Howard University. She is a Ward 7 resident. PR 26-688 nominates Dr. Jamila Jordan for reappointment to the Board of Pharmacy for a term to end March 12, 2029. Currently, Dr. Jordan serves as an assistant professor and director of experiential programs at Howard University College of Pharmacy, where she oversees the practical experience component of the pharmacy curriculum. In addition to her role at the College of Pharmacy, Dr. Jordan is an active member of several professional organizations, including the Washington, D.C. Pharmacy Association, the Washington Metropolitan Society of Health System Pharmacists, and the Academy of Managed Care Pharmacy, as well as the American Associations of the College of Pharmacy. Dr. Jordan holds a Master's of Business Administration with Pharmaceutical Management concentration from Drexel University and is a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from Howard University, and she is a Ward 5 resident. PR 26-689 nominates Dr. Jewel Reddick to the Board of Pharmacy as a pharmacist licensed in the district, filling a vacant seat for a remainder of unexpired term to end on March 12, 2028. The Honorable Dr. Jewel Reddick is an administrative law judge in the Civil Remedies Division of the Department of Appeals Board at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. He is also a pharmacist in the district. He earned his Doctor of Pharmacy from Florida A&M University and his Juris Doctorate degree from the University of Miami, and he is a Ward 7 resident. At the hearing, Dr. Reddick discussed his unique background in both pharmacy and law, sharing how his interdisciplinary experiences enable him to assist other pharmacies in navigating complex regulatory and legal issues. He expressed concern about the impact of pharmacy consolidation, particularly in underserved communities east of the Anacostia River, where reduced access to pharmacies may result in gaps in care and medication management. He also expressed interest in expanding the board's role in supporting patient and family education and continuing to address the opioid epidemic where further work remains. Mr. Chairman, I need just a little bit more time for one more.
Without objection.
Thank you. PR 26-690 nominates Dr. Stephanie Jonikin to the Board of Pharmacy as a pharmacist licensed in the district for a term ending March 12, 2029. Dr. Jonikin serves as a primary care clinical pharmacist at the Washington, D.C. Veterans Affairs Medical Center. Previously, she served as a clinical pharmacist at the Oakland VA Outpatient Clinic. She completed her residency with the Federal Bureau of Prisons and is licensed to practice pharmacy in Kentucky, California, Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. Dr. Jonikin holds a Doctor of Pharmacy degree from Touro University, California, and she is a Ward 6 resident. At the hearing, Dr. Jonikin expressed the importance of increasing public awareness about the full scope of services that pharmacists can provide. She explained that pharmacists are often an underutilized resource in the health system and can play a critical role in patient education, disease management, and improving health outcomes. In particular, she highlighted a greater need for public information around how pharmacists can offer support to individuals with chronic conditions such as diabetes and assisting with various tools, et cetera. Mr. Chairman, all four of these nominees are exceptional, and I ask that they be placed on the legislative meeting for today's legislative agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, are these four measures legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, they are.
Madam Secretary or Mr. Assistant Secretary, are the records complete for each?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. And Madam Budget Director, these are confirmations, so there would be no fiscal impact statement.
Correct.
Without objection, these measures will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. Also from the Committee on Health is PR 26-691, Health Benefit Exchange Authority Executive Board, John Auerbach, Confirmation Resolution 2026. Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PR 26-691 nominates Mr. John Auerbach to the Health Benefit Exchange Authority Executive Board for a term to end July 6, 2030. Mr. Auerbach currently serves as Senior Vice President of Health at ICF International, Inc., as their lead federal health expert. He's a rich career of over 30 years in public health and has served in senior roles at the federal, state, and local levels, including serving as the Public Health Commissioner for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He also served as the President and CEO of Trust for America's Health, and in several director roles at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, serving most recently as the Director of Intergovernmental and Strategic Affairs. He holds a master's in business administration with a concentration in healthcare management from Boston University and is a Ward 3 resident. At the hearing, he discussed his role to help enact and implement Massachusetts' landmark universal health insurance law, and his work at the CDC during the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, noting that both efforts required policymakers and practitioners to learn and adapt through implementation. His lessons learned from those experiences were the following. One, the importance of partnering with community-based organizations to ensure residents receive accurate information and have their questions answered. And two, keeping processes as simple as possible. Mr. Chairman, this gives me an opportunity to give my normal PSA when I'm presenting health. We have a lot of health professional boards, and it's an excellent way to serve the community and give back to district residents and the workforce. If anyone is interested in serving on one of our health professional boards or commissions, please visit the Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments website. I ask that this nomination be confirmed and placed on today's legislative meeting agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Are there questions from members? Councilmember Henderson, listening to you go over the nominees' credentials, is this part of the, is this a benefit to us from the brain drain from the current federal administration?
It does appear that we do have a number of federal folks who are now choosing to give some of their time in a local capacity, which is great.
Thank you. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
One of you. Madam Secretary. Is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, this is a confirmation, so there would be no fiscal impact.
Correct.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Allen, you wanted to be recognized?
Mr. Chairman, yes, could I make a motion to reconsider PR 26-708, the DC Uniform Law Commission, Janine D. Jackson Appointment Resolution of 2026? Councilor Lewis George wasn't in the room, and we had a chance to vote on that earlier. And it also might just happen to be that Ms. Jackson is actually in the room herself. So if I can make a motion to reconsider that.
There's a motion to reconsider. If there's no objection, the motion will be accepted. Hearing no objection. So PR 26-708 is again before us. I will forego the presentation that I made earlier. Ask if there's any, I'm hearing some noise. Do we need to clear the chamber? Is there any, are there any questions from members? Excuse me, it's up for debate. Any discussion by members? The vote will be on both the print and report for PR 26-708. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. And we will continue with the agenda. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Allen. If there's no objection, the next 9 resolutions, which are all confirmations regarding the Commission on Human Rights, will be presented in block. They were moved by the Committee on Public Works and Operations, chaired by Councilmember Brianne Nadeau. PR 26-661, Commission on Human Rights, Isabel Gladue, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-662, Commission on Human Rights, Carmen Moreno Sanz, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-663, Commission on Human Rights, Adam Mayer, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-664, Commission on Human Rights, Jordan White, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-665, Commission on Human Rights, Joel Caston, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-710, Commission on Human Rights, Reverend Thomas Bowen, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-714, Commission on Human Rights, Pratima Narayan, Resolution of 2026. PR 26-715, Commission on Human Rights, Joshua Blecker Cohen, Resolution of 2026. And PR 26-716, Commission on Human Rights, Dr. Krista Bywater, Resolution of 2026. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you, Chairman. That was a test. You passed. You read all the names. Excellent work.
Thank you.
So last week, the Committee on Public Works and Operations approved 9 resolutions confirming people to the Commission on Human Rights. The commission is our volunteer panel that delivers final decisions in administrative trials under the Human Rights Act, which bans discrimination based on various protected characteristics such as race and gender. Adam Mayer, Isabel Gladue, and Carmen Moreno Sanz are current commissioners whose terms will end this year. The mayor is reappointing them for 3 more years. Excuse me for one second. Then we have 6 new nominees: Jordan White, Joel Caston, Thomas Bowen, Pratima Narayan, Joshua Blecher Cohen, and Krista Bywater. I was impressed with these nominees' qualifications and thoughtfulness and urge colleagues to support these resolutions. And I ask that we include proposed resolutions 26-661, 662, 663, 664, 665, 710, 714, 715, and 716 on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Is that it?
That's it. There's more in my report if you want to read it later.
If any member wants to. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, are these 9 measures legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, they are.
Madam Secretary, are the records complete for each?
Yes.
And Madam Budget Director, these are confirmations, so no fiscal impact statements required.
Correct.
Without objection, these measures will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. Bill 26-224, Restricting Egregious Scalping Against Live Entertainment Amendment Act of 2026, also known as the Resale Act. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you, Chairman. The DC music scene and our local entertainment venues have deeply ingrained principles of inclusivity more than anywhere else in the country. The DC hardcore punk scene and the 930 Club in particular are largely responsible for establishing the tradition of all-age venues, exemplified by the practice of marking the hands of fans under legal drinking age with X's. Go-go, the official music of DC, is also a highly democratized genre with much of its talent emerging from local schools, community events, and other public facilities. Broad access to shows and events is essential to having a thriving arts and music scene in the first place. While the district's music and arts scenes continue to carry on this spirit of inclusivity, it's increasingly threatened by a crisis in affordability driven by the private ticket market. It's widely known that the ticket buying experience for events, both big and small, has deteriorated for consumers and venues. On average, ticket prices have risen about 81% since 2021 and 429% since 1996. More and more people are being shut out by scalping bots, speculative ticket sales, and other unfair trade practices. Councilmember Allen's resale bill responds to some of the price dynamics that are corroding our local music and theatrical ticket markets. It provides detailed new licensing and transparency requirements for people who resell large numbers of tickets. The committee print adds a new requirement for the secondary ticket exchange to disclose the original purchase price of ticket listed for resale. This disclosure to consumers is a critical tool for transparency in the secondary market and mirrors legislation recently passed in Maryland. Compared to the introduction, the print increases the surety bond requirement from $10,000 to $25,000. This is a requirement of any reseller that lists 50 or more tickets for resale in a year, then to ensure compensation to consumers in cases where the reseller fails to deliver purchased tickets or engages in fraudulent activities. The print adds a new provision granting the mayor regulatory powers to address high costs in both the primary and secondary markets, including but not limited to the authority to limit resale prices, tickets, cap ticket sale fees, and regulate the use of surveillance pricing. Compared to a statutory resale cap in the bill as introduced, this new provision maximizes the power and flexibility of the district to respond to a dynamic market. It safeguards consumer trust in price controls, and importantly, it addresses the entire ticket market, including the primary market. The ticket sale and resale industry is experiencing seismic shifts as a result of antitrust action and national policy dynamics. Even without those factors, even event ticketing's capture by the tech sector means that it's subject to rapidly changing strategies and business models. It's a known strategy of these industries to push for specificity in law while strongly opposing open-ended regulatory authority. This is done with the knowledge that business will be able to adapt and evolve faster than legislative action can ever hope to. It's important for this law to be resilient and stand the test of time, regardless of how the industry evolves. A broad and flexible regulatory mandate in both the secondary and primary markets will allow the district to address the consumer ticket buying experience as a whole, rather than having to play price gouging whack-a-mole. I ask that this measure be agendized in the legislative meeting to follow.
Thank you, Councilmember Nadeau. Are there questions from members? I have one. I assume that there was a discussion before this meeting and things have been largely worked out?
Yes, we have come up with some compromises that we will present in the legislative meeting.
Okay. I have three more questions. Madam,
Councilmember Parker would like to be recognized as well. Sorry. I don't know if your questions were clearance.
they were clearance.
Okay.
They were actually better. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. I'm eager to hear what might have been worked out, but I know Councilmember Nadeau, you mentioned in breakfast, you might look at the language in the print that seemed to give the mayor pretty expansive authority even to cap the overall price of a ticket, which I heard you say that wasn't your intent. If you could speak to that. I would also just say, for the primary record, I pulled up the FTC complaint filed by the OAG and a number of other states. I know there was a lot of debate and back and forth. For the record, it's important to share, according to internal Ticketmaster documents, the average percentage of fees charged on tickets range from 24% to 44% of the original total price. From 2019 to 2024, consumers paid over $16.4 billion. And so I just share this to compliment and commend you, Councilmember Nadeau, for trying to wrangle what's happening in the primary market. And it sounds like you're not ready to share what the workaround is, but if you could just speak to how we're dealing with what clearly is a problem.
Yeah, sorry, not trying to be secretive. Christina and, Councilmember Allen and Henderson are working on an amendment. We came together on the language. For my part, I had heard like late last week, that the rulemaking provision was drafted was kind of too broad compared to what we were trying to accomplish in the bill. So we kind of already had some language in mind. And so it makes clear that we're not trying to cap prices in the primary market, which would be a little silly, I think. But that we want to get at fees. In particular, we want to get at surveillance pricing. And we want to do all of that without getting in the way of an ongoing litigation that the Attorney General is in. So I think we got it pretty close, and we are going to be circulating it before the legislative. I think they'll be circulating it before the legislative meeting.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. One more question. I'm glad to hear you all work that out. And the other question is around enforcement. And I heard you loud and clear that enforcement will lie with DLCP. And with all due respect to our friends at DLCP, enforcement has not always seemed to be the thing they lean towards the most.
Yes, I agree. It's been challenging.
And so, like, how do we ensure that the intent behind this bill is actually what we see in practice? And I wasn't completely convinced that between the monitoring of various sites or the reporting, there's a clear end goal to ensure that residents aren't being taken advantage of. In other words, we passed this. How do we ensure that the goals are going to be adhered to via DLCP?
Great question. So in this budget, Councilmember Allen has provided for more staff and tools at DLCP to actively monitor the secondary market platforms. I will say that maybe a similar model in law right now would be the Airbnb, the short-term rental platforms, which has been challenging. I think it's going to require rigorous oversight from this body. It does require partnership between the platforms and the agency and the council. I like to believe that if we make clear in a law what's expected of a platform, they will try to follow the law and be a good partner. It's not always true. But we've got to do our best. We've got to put that out there in law and then work with folks to become compliant. But for example, I have experienced with short-term rental that some of the platforms, if they don't realize something is happening and we alert them to it, they will get that person off the platform. So it's been a partnership, even if DLCP hasn't always had the capacity to do it proactively like we wish. Hopefully the funds that Councilmember Allen put in the budget will also help with more proactivity though.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
There is, but we did fund it in the FY27 budget and financial plan that we passed last Tuesday. The cost is $150,000 in fiscal year 26 and 3.1 million across the plan.
Thank you. This measure will be placed on the non-consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. The next measure is Bill 26-494, Accountancy Practice Amendment Act of 2026. Councilmember Nadeau.
Yes. Okay. So this bill comes to us from the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. It updates the district's accountancy licensure laws by adding a third pathway to obtaining a certified public accountant license and updating reciprocity rules to allow out-of-state CPAs to practice in the district more easily. Both changes align the district with 2025 edition of the Uniform Accountancy Act. The accounting profession is facing a severe staffing shortage that is liable to get much worse in the coming years. Today's legislation is a critical tool to help prevent this crisis from growing and will ensure the district's laws support the licensing of new accountants without jeopardizing industry standards. More than 20 states have adopted these changes, including our neighbors in Maryland and Virginia. The bill was strongly supported by DLCP, the chair of the Board of Accountancy, and other industry representatives. I ask that this measure be placed on the non-consent agenda for today's legislative meeting because I intend to offer an amendment, which I'll get into then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. It's amendment in nature of a substitute, isn't it?
Yes.
Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
There is not.
This measure will be placed on the non-consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. The last item from the Committee on Public Works and Operations is Bill 26-422, Glazier Licensing Standards and Certification Act of 2026. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you, Chairman. Glaziers are skilled tradespeople who install, repair, and maintain glass and other fixtures in the buildings. As detailed in the committee report, the glazier industry is central to the success of the district's ambitious building energy efficiency, soundproofing, and other building quality standards that rely on high-quality fenestration. Despite the skill and risk involved in the trade, glaziers in the District of Columbia are not currently required to be licensed. The trade has developed its own certifications that many workers voluntarily obtain, but most glazing work in the district is done without certification. According to one estimate, there are about 240 working glaziers in the district, and only about 60 have certification. Today's bill was introduced by Councilmember Louis George, co-introduced by Councilmembers Allen and Fruman, and co-sponsored by me. It establishes licensing standards for glaziers and glazing contractors. It adds 2 members representing the glazier trade to the Board of Industrial Trades. The committee print removes a specific reference to the architectural glass and metal technician certification and instead allows the Board of Industrial Trades to determine what experience is acceptable. The additional flexibility should help reduce any concerns about the ability of other trades, including iron workers, to obtain a glazing license if they have comparable experience, and addresses concerns we heard about the burdens created by the licensure. I ask that the bill be put on the consent agenda at the legislative meeting, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there questions from members? Councilmember Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilmember Nadeau, thank you for presenting this legislation. And I think, as I sort of stated earlier, we have a lot of health licensing in the health space, and I had some questions about the approach as it pertains to glaziers. So first, I think it said in the committee report that we would be one of or so far, there have only been 5 jurisdictions in the country that have required licensure for glaziers. Is that accurate?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
But there have only been 5 other states that have required licensure for glaziers.
That sounds right.
Okay. And that Maryland and Virginia aren't one of those states. Is that also accurate?
I think that's right.
Okay. I get where we're trying to go in terms of the consumer protection part, but I guess I'm curious, why do we choose to require licensure for a trade that isn't often licensed versus requiring a glazier to register with DLCP such that if there are complaints that are submitted from consumers, DLCP can accurately follow up, et cetera. The licensure, for folks who don't realize, like the licensure process can take years, whereas registration is a much quicker process.
The reason, Councilmember, is because licensure allows better upfront monitoring of qualifications. I'm not sure if you know, but there was a high-profile safety incident occurring in Maryland. I think I mentioned it this morning in this industry that was very scary, and it is certainly a safety issue, but there's also a need to be able for contractors to differentiate trades workers who have the skills needed for highly technical installation work that's essential for maintaining energy efficiency. So just to be, so people know, because this is maybe, I didn't know all about this before the bill came to my committee, not all glass installation work requires glazier work. Contractors seek out glaziers for high-rise work or other highly technical or complex installations because they know that it's highly skilled work that requires highly trained experts in the field. And those are exactly the kind of workers that we want to make sure are licensed because of the technical skill and the risk involved in the work. That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will ask that this be on non-consent.
All right. Councilmember Lewis George.
Yeah, my hope is to try to clear it up so it could be on consent, but, so glaziers install and maintain the glass and metal systems that shape our buildings, and their work affects how much energy a structure uses, how it withstands weather, and how safe it is for occupants, workers, and the public. And so when this work is performed correctly by skilled workers, it helps the district meet our energy efficient goals as well as climate readiness goals. When it's not, dangerous incidents occur, such as the accident that occurred at the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission building in Rockville, Maryland, where a 3 by 15-foot acrylic panel fell from the 21st floor. Had anyone been on the ground at the time, they would have been greatly injured or killed. Unlike electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, and other skilled trades, glaziers in the district are not currently required to be licensed. And this bill would close the gap by creating a licensing framework for glaziers and glazing contractors, bringing this trade more in line with other construction professions where the district already requires standards, oversight, and accountability. So we're really bringing this in line with the other highly skilled professions that do same or similar work as far as safety concerns go. As Councilmember Nadeau noted, not all glaciers will glass installation required glacier work. This is really contractors actually seek out glaciers for high-rise work and other highly technical or complex installations because they know that it is highly skilled work that requires an expertise. So the licensure will actually help contractors identify the tradespeople with the skills and expertise needed to perform this type of work. It also, and so I want to thank Councilmember Doe for the improvements our committee made to the bill to ensure there are more pathways to licensure, as well as the IUPAT and iron workers for their recommendations to strengthen this bill. I think the ultimate goal here is that allowing the Board of Industrial Trades to consider an exam, an apprenticeship, comparable experience, or a combination of education experiences keeps the core purpose of the bill intact while making it more flexible and workable. And so my hope is that colleagues would support this as both a safety issue and effort that we need to address, as also a effort towards climate resiliency and energy efficiency that we also have as our ultimate goals.
Yes, Councilmember, that is correct. Great question.
Thank you.
Were you done, Councilmember? Councilmember Pinto?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Nadeau. Does this new standard create any changes to existing CBE programs for who would be eligible for certain contracts?
No,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Are there any other questions from members? I have three. Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, does the measure's fiscal impact statement comply with council requirements?
Yes, it does.
Is there a fiscal impact?
There is 300,000 in FY '27 and 534,000 across the plan.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson, you asked that this be on non-consent. So this measure will be on non-consent. Agenda is already printed, but it will be removed from the consent agenda. The last item for consideration came out of the Committee on Transportation and the Environment, chaired by Councilmember Charles Allen, PR 26-598. Green Finance Authority Board, Jennifer Wade Confirmation Resolution of 2026. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You introduced PR 26-598 at the request of the mayor on March 20th, 2026. It would appoint Jennifer Wade to the Green Finance Authority Board to fulfill the remainder of Brandy Colander's term, which is set to end July 9th, 2028. This nomination is for a seat reserved for a voting member with background in financial, project development, or legal expertise in clean energy, clean infrastructure, clean transportation, stormwater management, or green infrastructure. Ms. Wade currently serves as the Director of the Division of Regulation with the U.S. Department of Energy, where she manages a team of federal employees and contractors to monitor compliance with federal statutes and regulations governing the import and export of natural gas. She has served in this capacity since 2020. Prior to this role, she held numerous positions of the U.S. Energy Information Administration, beginning her service there in 2009 as a DC General Engineer, where she managed natural gas data collection efforts. She next briefly served as special assistant to the administrator before becoming an operations research analyst, a position that she held from 2012 to 2018. In 2018, she became a supervisory survey statistician, where she helped oversee a team responsible for producing national energy reports and ensuring regulatory compliance. She holds a BS in chemical energy from the University of Virginia and a master's of arts in teaching from education from Towson University. Ms. Wade is a Ward 8 resident. Ms. Wade has over 2 decades of service in the federal government, where she has cultivated leadership skills, subject matter expertise in energy policy, particularly with respect to natural gas, and experience with regulatory compliance. Based on the experience noted above, the committee found that Ms. Wade is qualified to serve as a voting member on the Green Finance Authority Board with expertise in financial, project development, or legal expertise in clean energy, clean infrastructure, clean transportation, stormwater management, or green infrastructure. So I therefore ask PR 26-598 be added to the consent agenda for today's additional meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Are there questions from members? Madam General Counsel, is the measure legally and technically sufficient for our consideration?
Yes, it is.
Madam Secretary, is the record complete?
Yes, it is.
Madam Budget Director, this is a confirmation, and so therefore there is no fiscal impact statement.
Correct.
Without objection, this measure will be placed on the consent agenda for today's legislative meeting. That concludes the items for today's Committee of the Whole meeting. We have a legislative meeting to follow, obviously, but then a legislative meeting, additional meeting next Tuesday. Probably not a Committee of the Whole next Tuesday, but there will probably be a Committee of the Whole meeting on July 14th. I'm being reminded that I'm thinking that the next week's legislative meeting will start earlier than the ordinary time, like at 10 o'clock, which is when we used to meet. So final decision will be in the notice that that the secretary distributes. In any event, we're done with the business for this meeting. 5 minutes to set up for a legislative meeting. Time is 1:16 p.m. and this meeting's adjourned. What? Well, I'm calling to order this meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Council of the District of Columbia. It is our 33rd legislative meeting of Council Period 26. It is also our regular meeting for the month of July. I like pointing this out because today is June 30th. The time is 12:29 in the afternoon and 1:29 in the afternoon. And we are in room 500 at the council chambers of the Johnny Wilson Building. I'm Phil Mendelson, Chair of the Council. We always begin our legislative meetings with a moment of silence, a moment for reflection, if we could have silence in the chamber and on the dais. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Bonds. Here. Councilmember Crawford. Here. Councilmember Felder.
Present.
Councilmember Fruman.
Present.
Councilmember Henderson. Councilmember Lewis George.
Here.
Chairman Mendoza.
Present.
Councilmember Nadeau.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
Councilmember Pinto.
Present.
Councilmember Robert White. Councilmember Robert White. And Councilmember Trayon White.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We have the Secretary's report of committee filings. I'm going to recognize the Chair Pro Tem, Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you, Chairman. I move a motion to waive the reading of the committee reports.
Is there a motion to waive the Secretary's report of committee filings? Is there discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We also have the Secretary's report of introductions and referrals. Again, I'll recognize the Chair Pro Tem, Councilmember Anita Bonds.
And again, Chairman, I move a motion to waive the introduction and referrals of proposed legislation report.
Is there a motion to waive the reading of the Secretary's report? Discussion. On the motion to waive, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have the consent agenda. There was one change made at the committee of the whole, which is on page 3 at the very top of the page. Item C, first reading, it's Bill 26-422, Glacier Licensing Standards and Certification Act of 2026, removed from the consent agenda. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda? Hearing none, we have the consent agenda as amended before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We will turn to Bill 26-422, Glacier Licensing Standards and Certification Act of 2026. Councilmember Nadeau.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked that this be moved from consent because I wanted the ability to speak to it. I asked some questions during the committee of the whole. I'm not opposed to licensure in general. I just moved several nominations for the Board of Pharmacy where all of those individuals are licensed. But I did want to raise some concerns on the record in that Glacier is not a profession or a field that is commonly licensed in the same way that electricians, plumbers, et cetera are. It would require perhaps an examination, a certain number of hours in terms of apprenticeship, et cetera. But I wanted to highlight a concern that we should just be aware of in that even in the committee report, it outlines there are about 240 glaziers in our region and only 60 of them are currently certified. In this sort of very interesting economic space that the district finds itself in, I think we should be concerned when we are making decisions that put us in an outlier, specifically from our regional partners, especially in the development space. What I would want us to avoid is a situation where now we have developers who want to build in the district and we say, great, here are the list of 20 people who are licensed. These are the only ones who can do your particular glazing work, which is not a requirement that Maryland and Virginia would also have. It does seem as though this is going to move forward. And so I do want to express that my hope is that when the Board of Trade is going through this process, of course, once it's funded and moves forward, is that there is a grandfathering provision and process that doesn't lock people out of this profession who have been doing it for decades without licensure to be able to go forward. But also considering too other mechanisms which don't unnecessarily lock people out of the trade. Like what is the amount, what is the fee to be licensed in the district? Is it an annual certification versus something that is, you have to be certified every 2 to 3 years, et cetera. There are often good reasons to be pioneers, but I feel like in some cases with occupational licensing, we can sometimes overdo it in terms of requiring licensure and hoops for folks to jump through that unnecessarily make it much more difficult for someone to enter the trade or profession over in the long haul. But I just wanted to be able to state that on the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the bill? Councilmember Louis George.
And Councilman Freeman hand is up as well.
What's that?
Councilman Freeman hand was up as well, just
Okay.
letting you know. I introduced the Glazier Licensing Standards and Certification Act because glaziers do highly skilled glass and metal installation work that affects the safety, quality, energy efficiency, and long-term performance of buildings across the district. This is work that is especially important as the district strengthens our climate resiliency as we experience more and more 100-degree days in the future. Glaziers instill and maintain the glass and metal systems that shape our buildings. Their work affects how much energy a structure uses, how it withstands weather, and how safe it is for occupants, workers, and the public. When this work is performed correctly by skilled workers, it helps the district meet our energy efficiency and climate readiness goals. When it's not, dangerous incidents can occur, such as the accident at the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission building in Rockville, where a 3-by-15-foot acrylic panel fell from the 21st floor. Had anyone been on the ground at that time, they would have been gravely injured or killed. Unlike electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, and other skilled trades, glaziers in the district are not currently required to be licensed. This bill closes that gap by creating a licensing framework for glaziers and glazing contractors, bringing this trade more in line with other construction professions where the district already requires standards, oversight, and accountability. Not all glass installation work will require glazier work. Contractors seek out glaziers for high-rise work or other highly technical or complex installations because they know that it is a highly skilled work that requires highly trained experts in the field. This licensure will help contractors identify the tradespeople with the skills and expertise needed to perform this work. I want to thank Councilmember Nadeau for the improvements her committee has made to this bill to ensure there are more pathways to licensure, as well as IUPAT and Iron Workers for their recommendations to strengthen this bill. Allowing the Board of Industrial Trades to consider and examine apprenticeship, comparable experience, or a combination of education experience keeps the core purpose of this bill intact while making it more flexible and workable. I strongly support this bill and urge my colleagues to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mendelson. Thank you, Council Members Louis George and Councilmember Nadeau. I fully support this bill. I am curious about the mechanics of how the timing is going to work because Councilmember Henderson's concerns resonate with me. Is it funded in the FY27 budget? Has it been pre-funded or will it have to be funded in the FY28 budget, meaning there is a pretty long runway before it becomes implemented?
It hasn't been funded.
Okay. And then Councilmember Louis George, you talked about, and maybe Councilmember Nadeau can speak to it, that the license might be based on prior experience or apprenticeship. There could be a vehicle, the 180 people who don't have a certification, but who have been doing the work, one would hate to see them unnecessarily blocked out.
Yes.
But there's mechanisms to deal with that issue. Can you speak to what those mechanisms are?
The print allows the Board of Industrial Trades enough flexibility to effectively grandfather existing practitioners by taking their professional experience into account when determining initial licensing requirements.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Are there further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just have additional question.
Yes, Councilmember Henderson.
I guess, I don't know if this is necessarily a question for Councilmember Nadeau, but I guess as the mover of this bill, I will ask that question with regard to subject to appropriation. So what I have seen happen in sort of the health field when we're adding a new profession and we give a board a responsibility to develop out the scopes of work, et cetera, then we also tell them, hey, you also need to add a new person to the board. Oftentimes boards will say, okay, we're going to wait until the mayor's team sends us a nomination for these new people until even before we even consider the process for this new profession, because we want them to be part of the conversation. I'm curious whether or not you all, perhaps on second reading, would be willing to do a bifurcated subject to appropriations such that the new members to the Board of Trade can be added so that I could definitely see this, we pass this today and the new regulations don't get out for 3 to 4 years if we don't put the members of the board on earlier than the other piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah, although I think it's a now, not a then problem in the sense that like the author of the bill is going to be the mayor. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, we could do that at second reading. I don't know that we need to. I definitely get the concern because we've all lived it for the past 12 years, but that time is coming to an end. So.
Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman. And I want to thank Councilwoman Nadeau for this bill. In particular, you know, usually I'm almost always speaking out as it relates to opportunities for DC workers. And again, that is what I'm about to say. But I think this issue is about safety. And I think we have to be really concerned about that. We have a number of large projects that are we're going to wrestle with, and I want to make sure that whatever products we produce, that they are safely done. And so when we think about metal and glass, and we have what we call these glass and chrome structures already in the city, and we want to make sure as we move forward that the individuals not only are trained, but also can go through a certification process. So I'm very happy to support this bill today.
If there's no further discussion, the vote will be on Bill 26-422. All those in favor of the bill say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Chairman Peach, women's voting present.
The ayes have it unanimously, and Councilmember Trayon White will be recorded as present. And the bill is approved. First reading. I will turn to the non-consent agenda. My understanding is that the amendment hasn't circulated yet on Bill 26-224, so if there's no objection, I'll call that a little bit later in this meeting. So we will deal first with Bill 26-494, Accountancy Practice Amendment Act of 2025. Councilmember Nadeau.
Yes. Okay. So earlier today at the Committee of the Whole, I discussed the benefits of the Accountancy Practice Act, which passed out of committee with no substantive changes from what the mayor had introduced. Now I'd like to move an amendment in the nature of a substitute, which still leaves those accounting licensure pieces intact, but adds 2 new components. These are germane to the underlying bill in that they deal with business licensing matters that the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection regulates. My staff circulated this amendment on Friday, the 26th at 4:42 p.m. We recirculated it yesterday at 11:44 a.m. with a minor change to the notice, but not the amendment itself. First, the A&S would incorporate some pretty technical, generally pro-business administrative updates to the provisions that were recently amended when the Business and Entrepreneurship Support to Thrive Amendment Act of 2021 was funded. The Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection recommended these changes in the form of emergency and temporary legislation, which we already passed unanimously last year. Maybe the most noteworthy provision in the current temporary bill has to do with the resident objections to proposed entertainment establishments. Under the final version of the BEST Act, neighbors could file an objection and get a formal hearing at DLCP, followed by a decision from the mayor. The problem with that is that DLCP is not an agency that conducts hearings. So we've never allowed this version of the BEST Act to fully take effect. Instead, the mayor proposed letting ANCs evaluate these objections and submit them, which would be entitled to great weight. Ultimately, the buck stops with the mayor either way, but this way we're leveraging our existing neighborhood level representatives to help the executive weigh the pros and the cons. The current temporary law in this ANS also allows some types of businesses to continue receiving four-year licenses. And they let businesses renew licenses that have been expired for more than 9 months in exchange for a fine rather than starting the process over. The vast majority of the provisions that Councilmember Pinto introduced in 2021 at the Committee of the Whole and the Council approved in 2022 would be left alone. Finally, there's one provision that didn't come from DLCP. It has to do with towing companies. Basically, we require some courtesy and repair towing companies to identify an impound lot when impounding is never part of their business model. And my ANS would fix that. So with that, I move the amendment in the nature of a substitute to Bill 26-494 and urge colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Just though you want me to do 105. We have the amendment nature, you've moved the amendment nature of a substitute, correct?
Yes.
And we have that before us. Is there discussion on the amendment? The vote will be on the amendment nature of a substitute. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Now we have the bill as amended. Is there discussion on the bill? The vote is on Bill 26-494 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We will turn to Bill 26-430, Education Code Adjustments Amendment Act of 2026. So moved. This is final reading. I circulated an amendment nature of a substitute. We talked about this briefly at the breakfast. There are a number of changes throughout the engrossed version, but there also are 7 sections that are newly added. Since this was brought up at the breakfast, I'll kind of go over what they are briefly. I don't think any of this is controversial. So Section 4, lead exposure prevention. This is a new section that aligns our statutory language with current practices at the Department of Energy and the Environment and OSSI and eases the administrative burden by making an annual report biennial. Section 6, Child Care Bureau. The ANS repeals the Child Care Bureau, which no longer exists. The Child Care Bureau was expected to provide the district government with a single administrative unit focused on child care and has since been subsumed within the Division of Early Learning within OSSI. Section 17, Green and Sustainable Schools. In early 2026, the U.S. Department of Education paused its Green Ribbon Schools program. The ANS revises the language in the Healthy Schools Act to reflect that change and provide OSSI a means to recognize school achievements in green and sustainable school initiatives. Moreover, the language revises the requirement that OSSI provide a stipend to teachers and grants to schools to participate in the environmental literacy leadership cadre. Because funding has not been appropriated, has never been appropriated for these stipends and grants. Section 21, new OSSI non-public placement one-time report. The ANS removes a one-time reporting requirement to evaluate and review the process of appealing OSSI's decision to deny, revoke, or renew a certificate of approval for placement of students with disabilities in non-public placements. Section 22, authority to issue administrative subpoenas. This grants OSSI the authority to issue administrative subpoenas to conduct enrollment and residency investigations. It's limited to enrollment and residency investigations. OSSI, through its Office of Enrollment and Registration, is responsible for investigating enrollment and residency matters, but cannot currently compel the production of records during the investigative stage, often delaying access to critical documentation. Section 22, course data collection. OSSI has oversight responsibilities, including oversight of federal funds, school performance, services for students with disabilities, state academic standards, and assessments. However, OSSI cannot currently compel LEAs to share information about courses offered or the curricula taught. This provision requires LEAs to submit course offerings and curriculum to OSSI upon request. Section 27, coronavirus immunization regulations. The ANS repeals a requirement that OSSI issue regulations mandating COVID-19 vaccination for licensed child development facility staff. The council repealed the requirement for students to be immunized, but has not yet repealed the requirement that OSSI issue these regulations. So those are the new provisions in the amendment nature of a substitute. I move the amendment nature of a substitute. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. I agree. Much of what you have included here is non-controversial, but we did have a conversation at the breakfast that I think it's worth having on the public record. And that's just simply to propose, not today, but in the near future, granting OSSI the authority as our state education authority or agency rather, to be able to compel information from all LEAs. I note here we are piecemealing, and we have in recent years giving OSSI authority over very limited areas. In this instance, we are granting OSSI to request course data. And that may seem innocuous enough, but it just strikes me as odd that we would not more fully empower our state education agency to work with LEAs. It is something I hope to work with you perhaps this year in the near future, not to undermine LEA autonomy. And I think this is specifically of interest with our charters, but to more fulsome empower OSSI to step into that role as a state education agency. There are any number of areas, whether it's financial records, health records. We've heard from the MPD chief previously that there are certain background and criminal records that they have struggled to get from some of our LEAs. And again, it just seems odd that we would not be moving towards a more empowered state education agency. So I support this, what we're doing today, but hopefully we can work together in the near future. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll leave it, rather than responding and getting into, I'll just leave it with that. Further discussion? So we have the amendment nature of a substitute before us. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. We have the bill as amended. Is there further discussion? The vote is on Bill 26-430 as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. So before we go to emergency legislation, let's go back. That's how we move forward, as we go backwards to item 1 on the non-consent agenda, which is the Resale Act. Bill 26-224, Restricting Egregious Scalping Against Live Entertainment Amendment Act of 2026. Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you, Chairman. I have already spoken to the bill today, so for the purposes of the legislative meeting, I'll just say so moved.
Thank you. We have the bill before us. I suspect I should recognize either Councilmember Allen or Councilmember Henderson.
Or both, probably.
I can't recognize you both
How about
simultaneously.
I'm happy to go first and then hand it off to my colleague.
All right, Councilmember Allen.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to start off by thanking my colleague, Councilmember Nadeau, and her team for moving this bill forward and out of the Committee on Public Works and Operations. The committee print has some of the strongest consumer protections for concert and theater goers here in the district. The practice of selling speculative tickets you do not actually have in your possession because tickets have not even gone on sale yet, is completely prohibited. If you're in the business of scooping up and reselling tickets from the box office, first off, please stop. But second, you're now required to obtain a license from the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection and obtain a $25,000 surety bond, making sure consumers have recourse if tickets are fake or aren't delivered. And lastly, I strongly support the committee's print requirement that if you're going to list a ticket for resale, you have to disclose the original price that you got it for. Transparency is a great thing here. I introduced this bill to help try to solve a problem that has made ticket buying an experience that is just an expensive nightmare. Middlemen use bots and technology to scoop up large swaths of tickets, forcing you into the secondary market, where tickets will be 2, 3, 10, 20, 50 times higher than the original box office price. When you get in the digital queue for a ticket, you are being beaten to the purchase by robots, not by fellow music fans. And even for shows that aren't likely to sell out, if you search for tickets right now, most of the results at the top are from secondhand sellers, not from the box office. This causes a few problems. First, because the profit can be so high, this is a numbers game, where the resellers buy as many tickets as they can, they mark them up, and even if they only sell 5 at $1,000, they've made a tidy profit. The rest of the tickets might even go unused. So if you somehow have a situation where people are priced out of tickets to a show with empty seats. Second, if you spend $1,000 on a ticket to see your favorite band, that's where your spending goes. You are likely to go to fewer shows. You're less likely to dine out before or after. You're not going to go buy the merch, and you won't pay inflated prices for a second show that you might be as excited about. Third, it makes our live music and our theater a luxury good. It's just one more thing being commodified. Music and culture is for all of us. A thriving art scene is essential to a healthy and interesting city. Artists and venues set a price point for tickets they agree will ensure fans of all incomes can attend. The secondhand market just turns that on its head. It's not a hypothetical issue here. Anthem's box office managers publicly talked about how regularly fans show up with fake tickets. The Hamilton has talked about how there are tickets for sale right now, advertised for VIP sections that don't even exist. Theaters like Arena Stage and Ford's Theater have shared stories of bots and resellers cannibalizing their ticket sales and losing tens of thousands of dollars that they need to run their operations. And when it comes to the changes we need to make, artists have said that the price cap makes the district a more attractive place to book a show and a tour, not less, because they are tired of seeing their own fans getting ripped off, and we should be too. The broader topic of how ticket prices are set and manipulated is a complicated issue. Well, what's for us today is simple. There's a ton of money being made by scalpers with an understanding of coding and AI who don't live here, they don't work for the venue here, they don't offer any value or assume any risk in putting on a show. If you put a cap on that profit, you're going to change the math for them. So after discussions with Councilor Nadeau earlier today, Councilor Henderson and I are moving an amendment today that will protect folks that want to go see a show, protect our amazing DC venues from these predatory practices while maintaining some of the strongest protections that came out of the committee. In short, it has 3 main areas. 1, it restores the 10% price cap on reselling tickets to provide immediate relief to concert and theater goers. Second, it narrows and clarifies the mayoral rulemaking to focus on predatory platform fees that drive costs up. And third, it adds further protections against platforms that use personal identifying information and surveillance-based pricing to discriminate that gives different people different costs and values depending on the data that's been mined on them. Again, I want to thank Councilor Nadeau and Councilor Henderson and their teams for working with us on this amendment. I ask our colleagues to join us in support, and I move the amendment now and hope to hear from Councilmember Henderson as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I originally signed on to the Resale Amendment Act when it was introduced because I believe the district is a leader in superior entertainment experiences and music culture. And I want our venues to thrive, for entertainers to choose the district, but more importantly, for fans to be able to attend and enjoy all of our venues without the unnecessary heartbreak that comes from when tickets don't work out on the secondary and resale market. I come at this from not just the perspective as a lawmaker, but also as a genuine fan. And there are countless stories of individuals who they bought tickets from a reseller, they arrived to the venue, they're very excited, only to have the ticket scan or not actually be eligible to be scanned. And the venue have to now tell them, we're so sorry, you bought a fraudulent ticket and you won't be able to attend today's event. There are lots of other things as well that's in this bill that haven't actually been covered, which is around the all-in pricing. There's nothing more frustrating when you're in line on Ticketmaster and you have an idea of what the ticket is supposed to cost, only to beat out the bots to get there. And then you hit checkout and you notice because of taxes and fees and other things that were pricing that was not upfront available to you, you have now been priced out of the ability to even afford the ticket. This legislation does not solve all things. I repeat, this legislation does not solve all things. It is dealing with the secondary market. There are definitely issues with the primary market that this bill doesn't touch, but I feel like over time, we're able to have more conversations about that, such as dynamic pricing and some other things. I think the amendment before us today strikes the right balance. It removes some of the complicating factors around primary that was included in the original committee print, and also does some other things. One other piece that I want to mention that is a great thing about the Resale Act overall is around this issue of speculative tickets. And this has come up a lot in sort of the sports context lately around World Cup, where we're seeing lots of people who they bought tickets, they bought flights, they bought hotels, they did all of these things only to arrive and the seller not actually have the ticket available to them. And we see this happening often, even in the concert space, of sellers offering for sale tickets that are actually not available on the market. And then they're not able to deliver on those as well. So the point of this, and I think that my support of this, is around protecting our venues, but also protecting the fan experience at the end of the day. So I hope that colleagues can support this amendment and the overall legislation going forward. Thank you.
So would one of you, either Mr. Allen or Ms. Henderson, explain in a little bit more detail what this amendment does?
Sure. We can do rock, paper, scissors for it. But yes, so I can briefly go through that. So first, it restores the price cap, which was initially in the introduced version of the bill. So what this does is put a 10% cap on the resale of a ticket.
Secondary market.
Secondary market, that's number one.
If I may just interrupt.
Yes, please do.
And to clarify, there could be additional fees. We discussed this at breakfast. Do you want to explain that?
Sure. So the bill sets a price cap for the resale of tickets to live events, the total cost of the initial ticket plus up to 10%. It also permits a secondary ticket exchange to charge a fee for the service of providing a marketplace for the resale of that ticket, provided that fee does not exceed 10% of the total price of the initial ticket. Does that help answer that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Secondly, and I think Councilor Henderson talked about this, there are changes that this amendment makes related to the committee print version around the authority of the mayor to issue rules related to fees. It narrows and clarifies that to focus on the platform fees, not the venue fees. So it's specific to the platform fees.
And that's meant to address concern that some venues have
Correct.
raised that they are affected
Correct.
by they're worried that they would be affected by the broader mayoral rulemaking authority.
Correct. In addition, in terms of what the committee had put forward in terms of creating a regulatory regime around this, it also does allow the mayor, after a year, to be able to come back and take a look at that price cap. So we're able to help evaluate, is it working the way that we wanted? Does it need to be adjusted in some way? So that's the changes as it relates to the mayor's authority there. And then it also focuses on prohibiting surveillance-based price discrimination. And so this is, if all of us wanted to go see a show right now and everybody logged in on the same platform, it's quite possible we're all going to get slightly different prices based on that, because there's a lot of data mining, there's a lot of information. It figures out who I am compared to you, and the price reflects that. That is discrimination in price. And so it prohibits that, which I think is a really smart protection for our primary marketplace as well.
That's both primary and secondary.
Yes, but I believe it's what you see more in the primary space. But yes.
Right. And so those are the changes in that.
I guess the fourth would be that it amends the applicability clause because we funded it in the budget. So there's language there to with the applicability clause.
Councilmember Nadeau.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. So as I mentioned in the committee of the whole, I'm proud of the work that we did in committee to evaluate this bill and strengthen it to advance consumer protection. The print that we marked up in committee last week would add a new provision granting the mayor broad regulatory powers to address high costs in both the primary and secondary markets, including but not limited to the authority to limit resale prices, cap ticket sales fees, and regulate the use of predatory pricing. Late last week, I heard feedback that the rulemaking provision could be interpreted too broadly compared to what we were trying to accomplish. So I had come in today expecting that we would work on that between first and second reading. What I came to understand this morning from colleagues was that there was interest in a more broad set of tweaks. So although I have reservations with instituting an immediate secondary market cap without a similar ability to address skyrocketing primary market prices in response, I do appreciate that this amendment preserves flexibility in the price cap itself so that the district can be more responsive to address a rapidly evolving market. I'm also glad that we can address surveillance pricing in this amendment. I do still hold concerns that this doesn't provide the ability to tackle other dynamic pricing strategies, but surveillance pricing that discriminates against individuals is clearly the most egregious, to borrow a word from the bill title. So despite my reservations, the other aspects of the amendment that my colleagues described will, I believe, make a positive difference for consumers, and the amount of material we agree on is much greater than what we disagree on. So I will be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Nadeau. Councilmember Trahan White.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I have a question just to get some clarity. I know one of the reasons was to address the issue of price gouging, especially in the bulk market where people are buying bulk tickets and selling them for higher prices. I guess I didn't know from these amendments that we got just now, how does it affect those who have tickets that are reselling their personal tickets? Does it apply to all or just the businesses or investors who are doing this?
Who do you want to answer that question?
Whoever has the ability to answer.
Councilmember Nadeau?
Sure. We do address that in the print itself by including provisions that Councilmember Allen introduced in the underlying bill. So
I'm still not clear. Is it for everybody or just large investors or businesses, or is this for?
So the practice that you're describing is called, sorry, the word is escaping me. It's been a long day. Speculative, right? The speculative purchasing where someone buys up a bunch of tickets and then resells them.
Yeah, it's a difference from somebody buying 1,000 tickets or 1 or 2 tickets reselling them. Just trying to figure out this bill differentiates the two or is just broad for everybody. I think Charles.
Yeah, go ahead, Charles. Sorry.
Yeah.
My brain just like basically fizzled
That's
out
fine.
right up here.
I appreciate it. It applies to everybody, but let's use an example. I've got 2 tickets to a show. I can't go. You want to go. And so I'm going to sell my tickets to you. We were able to have that personal exchange. The price cap still applies. I can't gouge you either for that ticket. But the biggest change that you'll see is that scalping used to be, somebody stood outside a venue, with 2-4 tickets just trying to sell them, right? That's not how scalping works anymore. And what you see are these massive platforms that have been built that are scooping up the tickets. So the difference would be if you and I can't go to the show anymore and I just want to sell you my tickets and you go enjoy it, I don't have to register with DLCP. I don't have to do any of that type of stuff. If I, however, am a business that is getting hundreds and hundreds of tickets and this is my business, then I have to be registered with DLCP and I have to carry my surety bond. I'm a business. And so I got to make sure that I can make good on that. So the price cap applies across the board, but the big distinction would be if I'm somebody who's purchasing a lot of tickets and reselling them, I have to register with DLCP, but it wouldn't interfere with my ability to sell my 2 to you.
Got it. And I guess a follow-up question, what would trigger them to report they are a business or they're purchasing bulk tickets? Because some can purchase a lot of small amounts of tickets and do the same thing.
So you have to sell and list more than 50 tickets per year. So
Okay.
my got a show or a game I can't go to and I'm selling to you, and then maybe next week selling to Phil, like that's not going to be 50. So I'm not having to register anything. But if I'm more than 50, it's a business.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you so much, council members Nadeau and Allen and Henderson for working on this important issue. And I'm in agreement that DC is a world-class city and we need to support our incredible venues and artists and preserve the ability for our residents and fans to go see shows and for people to come from around the country and the world to these incredible venues. And so what we're doing here today, we have to be particularly mindful to. I appreciate the changes in the amendment that Councilmember Allen and Henderson have circulated that kind of restore some of the initial language from the bill. But I have a couple questions as I just read this language and the rationale. So in section 2B, where it says, in addition to the rules in subsection A, the mayor is authorized to promulgate rules governing the maximum fees for the service of providing a marketplace for the issuance or sale of an initial ticket. My understanding from this morning's discussion was that the intention of the amendment was to go back to the original intention of the bill to regulate the secondary market as opposed to giving the mayor authority to regulate fees on the primary market. But this language seems just as concerning in that respect. Yeah, please.
Sure. Through the chair, and I certainly turn to Councilor Nadeau to add on this as well. This is specifically to the platform fees, so not the venue fees. So this allows the mayor to be able to take a look at platform fees that are charged to the consumer. It's not the fees that a venue may have to say, I'm going to host this event, I'm going to host this. And that was part of the original bill, was not including venue fees. And so this is only focusing on the platform fees, meaning the platform, the website, the company that is taking the sale. Councilor Nadeau, anything else you wanted to add to that, or did I describe that correctly?
No, I think that's right. I mean, the goal is that we can go after the primary market in a way that doesn't penalize local businesses, basically.
I guess I don't see how this wouldn't penalize local businesses if we're saying the mayor could regulate prices on the primary market, regardless of who is issuing the ticket.
It doesn't say prices, it's real specific. We can look at it.
Governing the maximum fees for the service of providing a marketplace for the issuance or sale of an initial ticket.
Fees, right?
Okay, so this is meant to be to address the tack on fees after the ticket price. I see. Okay, thank you. That is helpful. And then there's language on the rationale that I just want to make sure I understand what this is corresponding to. So this is on page 3 of the circulated amendment of the penultimate paragraph. It says the amendment preserves the ability for the mayor to regulate fees in the primary and secondary market, clarifies that this authority applies only to fees assessed by the platforms themselves for providing a marketplace for the issuance, sale, and resale of tickets. So is this again corresponding to that previous language that we just discussed, just for fees? Got it. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Pinto. Councilmember Parker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Henderson was distracting me.
Don't
Thank
be
you.
blaming other members.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen, Henderson, and Nadeau. It seems like you all came to a pretty common sense compromise that I think works. And I was proud to co-introduce the underlying measure. I do have a couple of questions. On the amendment, sections B and C, the 10% upsell. So if I resell a ticket, I could resell it up to 10%. That makes sense. Then C, if I exchange a ticket, I can charge an additional 10%. So now we're talking about up to 20%. And I just want to make sure I'm interpreting that the right way. That the additional 10% is cumulative. I'm sorry, the question is the additional 10% in section C cumulative? And so therefore, that exchange price can be up to 20% of what the original ticket price was.
Correct.
Got it.
Because you may have a situation where a platform is also charging a fee. And so you want to be able to include all of that. So
And that
up to
20% must encompass all fees for the venue, the seller, and whatever the price of the ticket is.
Yep.
Got it.
Essentially, you as the person who bought the ticket, what you paid for it.
Okay, two other things. I note that Councilmember Nadeau, to her credit, in the committee print, was trying to regulate dynamic pricing. And so dynamic pricing is this idea that when I go to buy my Beyonce tickets, because we're all looking at the same time, the price is going up and up and up and up. And with this amendment, now there is nothing dealing with dynamic pricing. And so let me ask it this way. Are the venues that we care about, like the 930 Club, concerned about dynamic pricing? And my guess would be no. It seems like the only people that would be concerned about dynamic pricing would be these big sellers like Ticketmaster. And so the question would be, why aren't we putting guardrails around that? Not to complicate the amendment, I'm glad you all reached a compromise, but that seems like one area that we just did not touch. And I just would go back to the numbers that I quoted from the original complaint filed by the OAG, where retailers like Ticketmaster upsell from anywhere from 24% to 44%, and consumers have paid more than $16 billion. Now, I know that wasn't the original intent of your underlying bill. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I can have more time.
Not much more. There's an answer to come, which is supposedly part of your time.
Councilmember Allen, if you could just speak to all of that.
Thank you, Councilmember, with all of your additional time. So I think one of my colleagues said early on, let's be very clear, this bill is not all things for every single problem in this marketplace. So start there, right? The name of the bill is the Resale Act, and so it is focused, when this was introduced, it was focused on the secondary and the resale market. There were elements of the primary marketplace that I think became a pressing issue, and so you see some of that incorporated here. I know that my colleagues introduced some legislation trying to get at some of these types of issues, and so there very likely could be more types of things to look at this. But we did not include dynamic pricing in this. I also think from a policy perspective, we would probably want to look, and we use dynamic pricing and we rationalize it in other policy spaces. And so I don't know if there's an
Like what?
Parking.
Like parking.
We use dynamic pricing for parking. If you've ever
Gotcha.
taken a ride on Uber, if you take a toll road, like we use dynamic pricing in a lot of different ways. And we've had that
hear
as
you.
part of our policy.
And I respect that. And I know we probably won't fix it now. I just would throw out there before second reading, it would be great if we can include that back into the provisions that the mayor in the future might be able to regulate. It sounds like, and based on the committee print, there was a lot of testimony about that. And I could just tell you from experience, it is frustrating when I see the price of a concert jump by hundreds of dollars simply because everyone's interested. The only other thing I wanted to come to was enforcement. And I know I've raised this multiple times, but I just want to walk through this again. And maybe this is better geared towards Councilmember Nadeau. Enforcement, I'm clear, is targeting bulk sellers. So let's say those selling thousands of tickets. I'm clear on that. What I'm not clear on is both how will DLCP become aware of someone running afoul of these provisions, and what actually is the consequence? So I heard earlier they will receive a notice of infraction. Great. But are there fines? Is there a suspension of sorts? Can you just speak more to what the penalty is for not following the law?
Yeah. And I actually will also just speak to your prior question also for a second. So dynamic pricing includes prices that vary for both legitimate and illegitimate reasons. And the committee print would have let the mayor tackle them all as needed in the years, over the years to come through rulemaking. What the amendment does instead is it focuses on the most obviously offensive form of dynamic pricing, which is called surveillance pricing. That's what we were talking about earlier, where prices are tailored to individual consumers based on activity that can correlate with demographics. So that is in the amendment, which I think is good. We will also in committee be taking on surveillance pricing more broadly with Councilmember Henderson's bill on this issue, which also pertains to transportation, et cetera. Anyone who's selling over 50 tickets on the platforms is going to have to register. So it's not just the big bulk, it's also sort of smaller bulk, but that's where we set the threshold.
I'm sorry, if I could just jump in.
Yeah.
And I'm genuinely trying to understand this. So, but how will DLCP know that Councilmember Allen is selling 100 tickets and he should be registering?
I mean, I think I used the example earlier today of like short-term family housing, right? It has to be a partnership between the regulatory agency and the platforms and the public. It's not an easy answer.
So they register, and
Mhm.
then what happens?
And then, okay, so they register, and then we know that they exist and that they're reselling. And then there are requirements for the platforms to share extensive data with DLCP. And then Councilmember Allen put money in the budget to add staff to the department to assist with monitoring all of this. So we are setting ourselves up for success. And also, it will still take work to ensure
Gotcha.
that there is proper
One last
monitoring.
follow-up question related to that. Is there any way to hold the big ticket sellers accountable, like a Ticketmaster, to not allow someone to gouge if we are saying in the law you can't sell for more than 20%? It sounds like we're putting the onus on ourselves, and I hear you. I guess my concern is we're wrangling and going through all of this, but I'm not convinced we will necessarily catch all of the bad actors.
I think it's honestly like anything else we do up here, that we have to constantly monitor and do oversight to make sure that it is properly followed. And I certainly will be leaving behind my book of tips and tricks when I leave this place. But I think that, again, it has to be a combination of consumers and the regulatory agency and the council working together to ensure, and the platforms to ensure that it all gets implemented with fidelity and that what's intended here actually happens. I mean, one of the reasons I had given the mayor such broad regulatory authority was because we can't anticipate everything. And ideally, she wouldn't have to come back to us every time to catch up, right? To catch up with the industry. And so maybe we should look at that, tweaking that for second reading, because we did move pretty quickly today, I think, to try to address everybody's concerns. So happy to talk more with folks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Crawford.
Councilmember Parker already asked the question that I had on what is in effect a cumulative cap of 20%. And I think that's important framing for the public after the meeting too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you, Chairman Mendelson. Thank you, council members Nadeau, Allen, and Henderson. I think this is a good compromise. Really happy to see that we've gotten to where we've gotten. I do want to put a marker down on dynamic pricing because I would be reluctant to say that should just be designated as a rulemaking. I think we want to hear testimony on that. I think what's happening here is an effort to take the dollars from big platform international companies that are getting large fees and scalpers who are getting large profits and bring the dollars back to the venues themselves. And I would want to hear from the venues because I would want to understand how, when the prices of the tickets go up, to what extent do the artists benefit from the higher revenue that comes in? I don't know the answer to that, but I would want to hear that. Would also want to hear from venues about I'm sure venues have some shows that are very profitable and many shows that are not. And they provide a setting for folks to come out and begin to build a following. And so I wouldn't want to get too far out there in choking off their access to revenue from profitable shows, because it may well be that they benefit from that, but others benefit from that as well. So I think it's sort of a complicated economic question, and I wouldn't want to just immediately say send it to a rulemaking. I would want to hear from the frontline players on that. But on what we have accomplished here today, on what are the most egregious issues, I think a lot to be proud of and very grateful to those who worked on it.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'm sorry, Councilmember Pinto, second round.
I'm sorry, and I know you all worked out this compromise language. I'm just hearing from some of our venues now about concerns around these fees because they receive money from the fees even if the ticket is being handled on a different platform. And so I know you all are working on a compromise, but it still feels like the initial intention was really to focus on the secondary market, and that a potentially unanticipated consequence of even this compromise language could be that our local venues get fewer fees than they're currently getting. And so wanted to see how people would feel about clarifying in section B that we're talking about the secondary marketplace for the regulation of fees.
I would urge that that language be looked at between first and second reading. Let's get this bill engrossed, and then folks can, over the next 2 weeks, take a look at what we've done and we can get feedback. But I'm also thinking if it's 10% on fees, I mean, as I recall, you pay $2, maybe $5 in fees for a ticket. That's way less than 10%. So I'm not even sure that there's an issue here.
Well, the 10% cap is for the secondary market, but my concern is that this language authorizes the mayor to regulate fees even in the primary market.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about subsection B. It doesn't even say anything about 20%. Fees for service providing a marketplace for the issuance or sale of an initial ticket. So if another platform is selling a ticket for the 930 Club and has some fees on it, our venues are currently receiving some of those fees, is my understanding.
All right, well, your time's expired.
Okay, so great. So I look forward to working with you all between first and second reading to try to refocus on the secondary market. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, the vote will be on the amendment. It was circulated by Councilmembers Henderson and Allen. On the amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. That was the amendment. Now we have the bill as amended before us. Is there any further discussion? On the bill as amended? I will repeat what I said a moment ago. This is first reading, and at the moment, it looks like second reading will be July 14th. Our practice is that the general counsel will engross the bill to reflect the amendment, and that will become available later this week.
Yes.
And so everybody can look at it and see if they're comfortable. On the bill as amended, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We will turn to emergency measures. The first is PR 26-753, Public Service Commission Holdover Period Extension Emergency Declaration Resolution of 2026. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. The Public Service Commission of the District of Columbia, the PSC, is the district's energy and telecommunications regulator. The PSC is led by 3 commissioners who are appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the council. The current commissioners are Chairman Emil C. Thompson, and Commissioners Ted Trabu Jr. and Richard A. Beverly. Chairman Thompson and Commissioner Trabu's terms are set to expire today. Section 2C of the Confirmation Act of 1978 provides that, quote, no person shall serve in a holdover capacity for longer than 180 days after the expiration of the term to which he or she was appointed, end quote, for offices that are appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the council. Given that their current terms are set to expire today on June 30th, Chairman Thompson and Commissioner Trabu's holdover period would end on December 27th, 2026. Over the last year, energy costs in the district have risen more than any other state in the country. And as the district's energy utility regulator, the PSC has presided over the very cases that have allowed the rate increases to occur. PSC does need new leadership to navigate the utility affordability crisis that's taking place in the district, and at the same time, needs stability during the interim of administration changes to ensure the quorum can be met and operations can continue. A new mayor will be inaugurated on January 2nd, 2027, and they should be able to determine who's best qualified to lead the PSC for the next 4 years, so we need to fill this gap in the calendar. This emergency legislation would extend the holdover period from 180 days to 270 days, effectively adding 90 additional days until March 27th, 2027. Extending the holdover period will allow the current commissioners to continue to serve while the next mayor determines the new nominees, and the council can consider and vote on those appointments. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I move the deck.
We have the declaration before us. Is there discussion on the declaration? The vote will be on PR 26-753. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. We have the underlying bill, Bill 26-715. Councilmember Allen.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there discussion? The vote will be on Bill 26-715. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. The next measure is PR 26-751, Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Technical Emergency Declaration Resolution of 2026. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On December 20th, 2022, the council passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Act of 2022. While most of the permanent law went into effect on April 21, 2023, Section 105 of the permanent law, which expands the jurisdiction of the Office of Police Complaints, remains unfunded and has not yet taken effect. Instead, substantially similar provisions have been maintained on an emergency and temporary basis. There also existed a need to clarify the scope of mandatory reporting requirements, amending the Expanding Supports for Crime Victims Amendment Act of 2022, effective April 6, 2023, which is DC Law 24-341, 69 DCR 14698. While Section 4 of the Leading Education Access for Reentry and Necessary Success, or the LEARNS Amendment Act of 2026, passed on second reading on June 2nd, 2026, the enrolled version of Bill 26-526, clarifies the scope of reporting requirements on a permanent basis moving forward. It has not been signed yet by the mayor or completed congressional review. In response to these issues, the council passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Technical Emergency Amendment Act of 2025, which expired on January 28, 2026. The council also passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Technical Temporary Amendment Act of 2025, which is set to expire on August 13, 2026, prior to the council's return from legislative recess. This new round of emergency and temporary legislation is now necessary to prevent a gap in the law between the expiration of the temporary legislation and the applicability date of Section 105 of the permanent legislation. This round of emergency and temporary legislation is also necessary to clarify the scope of reporting requirements amended by the Expanding Supports for Crime Victims Amendment Act of 2022. With that, Mr. Chairman, I move the deck.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. We have the declaration before us. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilmember Henderson.
So Mr. We have been voting on this on an emergency and temporary basis fairly routinely at this point. And so I'm just curious, what's the permanent plan here?
Well, there's a certain amount of finger pointing going on. Not to say,
Pointing a finger.
I know
for the
you're not.
record.
And I'm
just-
just sure I want to get into whose fingers are pointing at who, but this apparently has to do with a provision that allegedly I had something to do with and that hasn't been funded. And so I think there's some belief that I'm supposed to do something about this, which I'm not fully understanding. So at least we're going to this next round and maybe we'll sort it out.
So we do it one more time.
Well, I would prefer we do it many more times until the person I think is responsible figures out how to fund it.
How much is this particular provision?
Beats me.
So we don't know what we're fighting over?
I'm not sure fighting is the right word.
Okay. I would just say for the
What we're
record,
misunderstanding over.
nonetheless, in terms of the personal gripes between of who is responsible for what, et cetera, this is one of those situations where we have already been critiqued from the Hill in terms of doing successive emergencies back to back to back without a permanent coming into play. And so that's why I'm asking what the plan was, if we're going to be just continuing to do this on an emergency basis, or if someone, whoever, no finger pointing, plans to actually fund the section so that we no longer have to do this.
Noted.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman Mendelson.
Councilmember Felder.
No, that was Fruman.
Councilmember Fruman.
Thank you very much. People get us confused all the time. I just want to echo the comment that Councilmember Henderson made. The mayor's letter talks about this is the 6th time we've done this on emergency basis. I don't understand why that would be. I don't want to do a 7th time. Like, I don't get it. And so hopefully we can figure this out and not have to do it a 7th time, but we can't rely on emergencies in this kind of way. We shouldn't rely on emergencies in this kind of way. Let's sort it out.
Further discussion on the declaration. On the declaration, PR 26-751, all those in favor say aye. 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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. On the underlying bill, Bill 26-712, Councilmember Allen.
So moved with enthusiasm, Mr. Chair.
Discussion. The vote will be on Bill 26-712. All those in favor say aye. 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 Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it unanimously. The next measure is Entertainment Establishment Employee Safety Extension Emergency Declaration Resolution 2026. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know, speaking of many emergencies, this measure would once again extend the emergency legislation that has been in effect since December of 2024. That permits a retail establishment with a valid on-premises Class C or Class D retailer license or a restaurant location that operates 24 hours a day or operates at 3 a.m. at least 2 days a week to refuse cash as a form of payment. In order to comply with this exemption, the establishment must display written and conspicuous notice to the public that the cash payments are not accepted on the door of the establishment or on its menu. A permanent measure is under consideration in the Committee on Public Works and Operations. It had a hearing on June 9th, 2025. And while I had hoped that the permanent would have been passed by now, it won't in time as the current temporary would expire while we are on recess. So that is why I'm moving this emergency today. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Discussion? Councilmember Henderson, you said this was a successive emergency?
Not by choice, but yes.
I'll just note for the record, not, you and I talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, so just, I have been voting against this consistently, so I'll be voting against it today, but it has been approved consistently. Is there further discussion? On the declaration, PR 26-750, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Please record me as voting no. The ayes have it. On the underlying bill, Bill 26-710, Councilmember Henderson,
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
discussion. On the bill,
Can I speak to, well, I can withdraw.
Councilmember Bond,
I will withdraw it because the measure, the permanent measure is potentially coming. And the maker of this temporary bill determined that my amendment was not friendly. So if it's not friendly, I'll wait for the permanent measure.
okay. If there's no further discussion, the vote will be on Bill 26-710. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Please record me as voting no. The ayes have it.
We thought our measure was.
We have temporary bills. If there's no objection, we'll move the first two in block. That's Bill 26-716, Public Service Commission Holdover Period Extension Temporary Amendment Act 2026 and Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Technical Temporary Amendment Act of 2026, Bill 26-713. Hearing no objection, they're before us in block. I'll say so moved. Is there discussion on those two temporaries? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. We have the Bill 26-711, Entertainment Establishment Employee Safety Extension Temporary Amendment Act 2026. Councilmember Henderson? So moved.
So moved.
Discussion on this bill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Almost didn't make it. Are there any opposed? Yes, please record me as voting no. The ayes have it. The next legislative meeting will be an additional meeting on July 14th. The agenda says 12 o'clock. The time may actually be earlier. We're thinking about 10 o'clock. Yes, on the 14th. Oh, I'm sorry, the 7th. Let me start over. The next legislative meeting on the agenda is July 14th. It's an additional meeting. It's scheduled to start at noon. There will, in fact, be a legislative meeting on July 7th where we are going to take up the Budget Support Act. And that will probably start at 10. There being no further business, the time is 2:42 in the afternoon and this meeting is adjourned.